Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your number one podcast for all things Assassin's Creed.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 104 of Let's Talk Assassin's Creed. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Halloween. It is the spooky season, so we're going to talk all about Halloween in Assassin's Creed. But we need help. We need a pro. We need someone who knows how to host a podcast and have a good chat about all things Assassin's Creed. So welcome to the show, Louise, the Nerdy Archer.
Yo! I don't know what you were... Have you found this professional pro podcaster?
Pretty
I think
sure.
We're still looking.
Pretty sure. Yep. There's at least two on this on this program anyway.
That doesn't count me because 2 years and I still don't think I've gone pro. So who's this other pro that's joined the chat?
2 years is a lot of experience, to be fair. I have just over a year under mine.
Even though we're coming up to the third year of the show, I still feel like half the time I do not know what I'm doing.
Fake it till you make it.
Exactly. I jump
Absolutely.
in the shower, come out of ideas, fire them at James, and James is thinking, great, it's that time of day again when I get bombarded with ideas. Let's just jump down and see what happens. So Halloween.
Declan, what are we going to talk about? Halloween.
Ooh.
Let's get scared. Come on.
Spoopy
season. So I am excited to actually announce, because of James' excellent hard work with YouTube, that actually this video, because this will be released on Saturday the 30th, will be out on Halloween. So this is actually Halloween. I'm so excited. So yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
So the first thing I want to discuss about is Isu. I think we'll start with some nice Isu-y stuff for fun, and then we'll switch on to the history.
As soon as you said that, I had a brainwave, but I'm going to keep it and hear what you've got to say. I've already ruined the flow of the show. So Declan, take it away.
So one of my biggest news stances on Isu is I don't think Isu should be used to explain everything. I will blanket that out. Don't do that. But judging from a chat I've had with 6 Keys in the system server, that when the Toba catastrophe happened, a lot of Isu knowledge was given to humans. Then over time, humans obviously made their own stories. That's how life is. So what if Samhain is its official name, has ties to Isus? And the biggest one is, one of the main mythologies around Samhain is the veil between the living and the dead is the weakest. It's why they dress up as ghosts, ghouls, to scare off the spirits, essentially. But what if it was an actual idea that the Isu came up with first to connect the grey with the living? And
Ooh.
That's
maybe
interesting.
This touches on something I had planned for my own Halloween episode that I never ended up recording. Where I was like, I'll say it now. Sages are vampires was my idea. So it sort of ties into that idea of common mythology being ancient Isu tech, or Isu consequences, as it were.
Technically, sages as vampires makes a 100% logical sense. And
see,
the reason I will say that, and I'd love to hear James.
Hang on. Sages as vampires makes logical sense. Teach me.
Okay, so I'll go into further detail, but the short thing is, seemingly immortal / people coming back from the dead over and over and over again.
Ooh.
And you know how in Valhalla it was added in that sages who went through Yggdrasil had that mark on their neck?
Yeah.
Vampire bites if it's on their collarbone.
Oh, brilliant. Love it. Okay, that's cool.
I had another
I like that
idea.
Theory.
Well, Louise has just blown my mind. That's like one of the best ideas ever. Like,
well, thanks everyone for listening. It's been a great show. We'll see you next week.
If you want to listen to this in further detail.
My idea was kind of more of a scientific one. You know how it happens in fusion and a lot of donation fusions for like body parts. Your body can reject it, so you have to have that blood transfusion. What if a sage system like the Yggdrasil device, like the very first prototype, broke, and the way for a sage and the human body to stay connected was by consuming human blood, as a way to keep the body from rejecting the sage DNA. So that would lead into tale of the whole story of drinking people's blood, allergic to sunlight, because the body was constantly fighting this new DNA and it was never attaching itself. But this is why I was thinking with the same with the Samhain mythology of the Veil. The Grey is one of the biggest mysteries of the Isu. Is that their afterlife? Do they go to the Grey and that's where they live? Because we know, if I'm right, that's where the reader's been hiding, in the Grey.
That's how I interpreted it, at the end of Valhalla,
And there was at least one implication that even though Clay and Desmond are dead, spoiler alert, but it's been a decade, I still feel like I have to say spoiler alert. But there's at least one or two implications that they are still there, particularly while Juno was still alive, that Juno was still sort of keeping them in the Grey for a bit. Which is creepy to think about, but also, if they're dead, that's the closest scientific reasoning so far we have to them being ghosts. Or this idea of the reader being a ghost as well.
I think as
kind of a ghost in a machine, I would say, wouldn't you?
Ooh, trippy, Matrix style.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's that. I'm no expert on the Grey, but that's how I kind of understood the Grey. It was, it's like a
You're
digital...
not alive, but you're not dead either.
Yeah, your consciousness has been turned into binary, and you're alive in a computer simulation, as we see very clearly, I guess, when Eivor plugs into Yggdrasil and Sigurd as well. We've gone pretty deep. I think my brain's already melting.
But I think it's really interesting because Albert Einstein theorized, I believe it was Albert Einstein, so please correct me, that our body is made of energy, and energy can't be destroyed. So there's always that whole debate with when you pass away.
Yeah, energy's just made into something else.
So what if the Isu cracked it, as James said, Ghost in the Machine? When that body dies, they use that energy to put into the Grey. And maybe they made a machine that needed a yearly cycle to warm up, and they just tried the hardest every year to pull DNA or whatever energies living in the Grey back onto Earth. To try and cheat death is essentially maybe it's the very first sage device was to cheat death by actually dying and just reincarnation and then as humans evolved, they've just kind of cheated it into thinking it's more of a human thing between the living and the dead. Love to hear your thoughts on it.
I like that theory. Let me just try and maybe advance it a little bit. So we know that we have sages whereby humans, I don't actually know the details, so you two can correct me as I waffle on. Humans are born intermittently who have a concentration or a certain amount of an Isu person's DNA, and that will sort of express itself over time. And we see, sages are recording like the I forget the guy's name, but the guy that left all the messages in bottles in Black Flag. He was becoming aware of this second voice in his head.
Yeah.
And
there are very few that can control the Isu part of them, but eventually that it will sort of take over in a way.
Yeah.
Like we saw with John Standish and Black Bart.
Absolutely, of course. I'm thinking of the message in the bottle and missing the obvious sage in Black Flag, which is Black Bart. Yeah. So what I'm wondering is that sort of an advanced version of? We know the Isu were trying to find ways to preserve themselves, but maybe earlier experiments were simply digitizing their personalities. And we kind of see an example of that with the staff, don't we? At the end of Valhalla, it contains, the spirit of Alethea, doesn't it?
Oh, and with the shroud, because Consus isn't technically a being; he is just a consciousness that speaks sometimes through someone being held by the shroud, particularly Shroud number 1, which is the one that Mario Auditore found. But when Giovanni Borgia was healed by it as a child, there was sort of a connection formed. And when he found another piece of Eden, there was that conscious speaking through him. I mean, it killed him, but it happened.
Yeah, it's very much a good news, bad news situation.
Good news, the Easter exists. Bad news,
Yeah, you're dead.
Giovanni's died again.
How many Shrouds of Eden are there? Because there's one
We know there's
in
2.
Syndicate, and there's one that we see at the end of Odyssey in the DLC in Fate of
Yeah, so
Atlantis.
there's
Is that the same
2.
one?
There's 2 confirmed. There's
Okay,
the Jesus Shroud of Turin one, and then there's the Kenway Starrick Fry one,
right.
which Grammatica uses to bring Juno back and the whole comics thing. But
Okay,
they're both destroyed as of like 2020, 2021. They're both, the 2 that we have no longer exist.
understood.
Which is a bummer because they're pretty cool.
Yeah, they are pretty cool. I'll be honest, I didn't remember too much about. I haven't read the comics. I didn't remember too much about the ending of Syndicate, other than I know there's a shroud hidden under Buckingham Palace. But the one that sticks in my mind is the one from Fate of Atlantis, because it's a Zeus who is experimenting with it, and doesn't he blow someone up into bloody, gory mess? And I've just got this memory of Cassandra going, "Azaeus, what the fuck did you do?" And she's covered in blood. Anyway, it's very gory. It's just perfect for Halloween. Anyway, yeah, Azaeus, for God's sakes, leave the Shrouds of Eden alone, mate. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it is more than possible that I'm not trying to say yes, Samhain was answered by the Isu, but it could be a good way of, they started something, they told humans what they tried to do and how it failed, but over the times, human life, humans evolved and loved, and that fear of losing someone, they probably had their own attachment to this Isu device that could bring a loved one back. And then over time and history, it just evolved into this mythology, especially with paganism in Britain. So, kind of cool if that was the case, but I don't know if that's me trying to say Isu did it.
I just when you started the show and you said about Halloween and Isu, I said I had a brainwave. And let me read it out to you now. And I've literally just scribbled it down on the pad while you were
I was about to
speaking.
say, please don't tell me you've forgotten.
No. I've learned over the last 8 weeks or 10 weeks we've been recording together to always have paper and pen handy, because sometimes you get random ideas or words you want to come back to. Although me trying to move my arms around the microphone to write without making a load of background noise, still haven't really mastered that. Anyway, sorry, what were we talking about? Oh yeah,
Brainwave.
right. That was it. So instead of it being deliberately Isu, what about this kind of explanation? It's a residual human memory of an annual event that took place when the Isu were, here, and humans were enslaved, and it was some kind of, think of the Purge. The Isu just go crazy with their slaves and terrify them to keep them subjugated, and that kind of annual ancestral memory persists as Halloween. That was my very dark theory that popped into my head.
I couldn't disagree with it, to be honest. I think, as Warren Vidic explains in AC1, about how do animals remember how to migrate and stuff like that, it could make sense that it could be a residual memory that's just happened over time. It's something that you don't think about, Even now in real life, 2021, no one stops to think about why did the first person start Halloween. It's just embedded in our brain that that's what Halloween is. It's just a Day of the Dead, essentially. We celebrate the living, we celebrate the dead being able to come back. I really think this show's starting to get too spooky for Halloween.
I guess, don't a lot of these festivals, they're linked to the calendar, aren't they, in the changing seasons? I've got to be honest, I actually know very little about modern Halloween, let alone recent historical Halloween.
Yeah, I probably know about more ancient Halloween than I do, 21st century.
Yeah, 21st century is buy sweets, give sweets, dress up.
Sit down, order pizza and watch a horror movie.
Perfect.
Evening sorted.
Perfect, yeah.
Technically, the trick and treat is from the olden times as well. They used to dress up, and as you saw in Valhalla's Samhain arc, that was as a way of not getting. I could be wrong, but I think it was so they didn't get stopped by the spirits. Similar reason to why bridesmaids dress similar to the bride. So if the devil steals it, they accidentally steal a bridesmaid instead. But I'm going off topic.
That's interesting. I've never heard that
Do you
theory
want a
out.
random Halloween fact while we're on the subject?
Definitely.
Oh yes.
So you know how people carve pumpkins and they leave them outside?
Hmm.
It wasn't originally pumpkins, it was turnips and like fruits and stuff like that. So
Fantastic.
pumpkins being associated with Halloween is more of a recent ideal.
Turnips are going to be a lot harder to carve than a pumpkin.
Oh yes.
I'm guessing you're not hollowing out a turnip to put a candle inside.
You can make good mash with it, so
Yeah.
could have its uses. I'm not hungry. I did not start the show thinking I'd be hungry for turnip and carrot mash. That's quite nice. Sorry.
Plot twist. This is why I always have snacks on hand.
Nice.
You can't
Okay,
record without snacks.
Serious question though. Do you both like eating pumpkin? Because I really
No.
don't. No. Okay, good.
It
Just
smells
checking.
alright. Like, I love the smell of pumpkin pie, but no, I cannot taste it.
Never had it. It's on my bucket list to eat
It's
it.
it's like mulled wine at Christmas. It smells delicious, but when I had some for the first time last year, I couldn't stand it.
Oh, really? Oh, mulled wine, I'm there. Mulled wine is amazing. But pumpkin, it's got a very strange, like when you hollow out the pumpkin, it smells weird. Yeah, it's not for me, I must say.
I really want a pumpkin pie now. It just makes me think of Harry Potter. Anyways, I'm going off track. So, the reason why I watched this episode, I'm going to pass to James first and to Louise to get your thoughts. When Valhalla released its next season, we all knew they were going to follow the seasons, and I always guessed from the beginning we were going to have a Halloween. But I don't understand why the Wild Hunt was chosen. You know, I know it has a lot of Norse myths, but would it have made sense with the blacksmith marrying, I totally forgot her name,
Bridget,
and them not celebrating Samhain in the Ark? Would it have made more sense game-wise to have them help her feel more at home in the clan by celebrating Samhain with her?
Oh, that would have been charming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's actually, I was just rewatching some of the cutscenes from the Gloucestershire arc, and there's a specific line that Eivor says to Gunnar, I think it is. It might be Tev. No, I think it's Gunnar because they're riding together. And she says, we should bring some of these root vegetables home. Because they've all got, vegetables out. Like you said, Louise, to sort of celebrate the event. And it would be quite nice, actually, if that was referenced by them actually bringing back pumpkins or whatever veg they have in Gloucestershire back to Ravensthorpe. And it would also be, I'm always up for more Bridget when it just says on the subtitles, unintelligible. I just think that just cracks me up every single time. But, okay, so do you want a gameplay answer, Declan, or do you want a story answer?
Any, whenever you're comfortable. My answer is...
All right. I'm gonna plump for gameplay and hope that Louise is warming up with a good story-based answer because I don't know anything about the Wild Hunt. Okay.
Oh, God.
Apart from the fact, isn't it the Wild Hunt are like the bad guys in The Witcher 3, I think?
Yeah.
Which I've played about an hour of once last year or the year before. Anyway, from a gameplay point of view, I am not bothered at all about the seasonal event. I'm really sorry, Valhalla fans, but they're just a bit boring. So
yeah, they're very samey.
Yeah.
Like
I do.
There's
honestly,
always like an archery event. There's always collectibles. There's a fist fight, which you do while drunk, apparently, because what respectable Viking doesn't fight drunk?
Maybe they're learning to wassail from the locals. I just don't have the patience for just grinding repeated fistfights or archery contests to get tokens to get a sword or a decoration.
To be honest, I didn't do the summer event.
Nope, me neither.
I did the spring one purely for the the cosmetic of the flower crown, and that was
I did the same thing. I looked at the store and I thought, that's really pretty. I'm going to get that.
It's mine.
I couldn't care less. Yes, nothing else was at all interesting. So I did exactly the same.
I have the sisterhood tattoo. I have the flower crown. I am sorted.
Yep. So let me ask. Let's go back a bit further then, Louise. So the very first season event, was it called Ostraka? No, Ostraka. That's
Ostar
Ostana. No,
Ostara,
maybe
yeah.
Ostara. Okay,
Christmas festival, yeah, Ostara.
yeah. So did that one because I guess that came out just a month after release, didn't it? And
Yeah,
that,
it
I
was
mean,
post-Christmas, early New Year
yeah,
sort of timing.
right. So I did that one. I collected every single collectible. I ground that archery event however many times.
I just went mad in photo mode
Right.
because
Okay.
I have like this envisionment of because I also had that idea that they were going to do 4 seasonal events, one every 3 or 4-ish months,
Mm,
for
mm,
Christmas, the equinox sort of thing.
yes.
And then there's like this one section of Ravensthorpe where in the events a lantern hangs.
Oh, I know
So
where
I
you're
have
going.
that with 4
Yeah.
different seasons. But it wasn't there in the summer one, so I can't do it.
Oh, shame. That would have been such a nice sort of
I know. The thought was
collage,
there.
or yeah,
I have
yeah.
3. It's
Oh,
just, it
hey,
wasn't there
that's
in
all right.
summer.
We can get someone to Photoshop the 4th one for you. No problem. Sorry, let me finish what I was my point. So,
Sorry, I
no,
interrupted.
no, 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 it's fine. I suppose the point I make from a gameplay point of view is like you, Louise. So I did all of the winter event. I did the spring event enough to get the crown, and I thought, nah, I'm done. The summer event, I looked at it and thought, nah, I didn't do any of it. So I am, yeah, my sort of, if you were to plot out on a graph, my sort of engagement in these events, it dropped very, very sharply with each one. And unless there's like a particular cosmetic, like you say, the flower crown, which was really nice, or I don't know, I'm personally not bothered about collecting the tattoos. I don't know if I'll be doing it. So let's see. Because what I really missed, and I get that they developed it after and it takes time. What would have been great would have been to have like a little mini discovery tour, story, quest, lesson, whatever you want to call it.
Ooh.
So yes, you can go and do the fighting and the brawling and the drinking and the flighting and the fighting, but also you could go and learn about how did the Norse celebrate the new year, or spring, not harvesting, when you're sowing the fields, or when you're harvesting in the autumn. But it was just fighting and drinking, which So maybe there'll be a discovery tour element in the future. Maybe
That's
We
not
can
the
though.
only
only
hope.
reason. That was actually the only reason why I've been doing all 3 events. I wasn't bothered about the cosmetics. I was just hoping there was going to be a story around it. Something entertaining, but it's just no story. Which
Yeah, and the story that they did have was primarily like fetch and carry, or like light these beacons for the summer one, I think. And it was just,
Right.
it was the only, it wasn't even, it felt like a Shaggy Dog story. This idea of we're doing all of this and all we're getting is more tokens. Like, I appreciate trying to be ingenious, and reusing assets is like very pivotal, especially when everyone's been working from home for 18 months, close to 2 years now.
Yeah.
But if you're going to reuse assets, maybe use the characters that you already have in an interesting way. Like, maybe give Hytham an introduction to Samhain, or how
Look,
they
I tell you what,
celebrate
if
Christmas.
Hatham is coming, that's going to be awesome, and I will definitely play that season.
Yeah, I want more Ranvi. I want more Ranvi and Hytham. Okay,
Okay, Hatham, yeah, sure.
I'm like, you have so many NPCs in Ravensthorpe that you don't really interact with outside of one specific mission. Like the tattoo artist, or Ranvi only gets to leave Ravensthorpe once, maybe twice. Maybe change their pattern a little bit, let them have fun. And then you can explore and do whatever they want and see things from a different light, or like you wanted, Declan, have that sort of discovery tour element, but have it as a Viking teaching someone else, or different clans from each other, or learning from people who live in Mercia.
That's interesting, because I wonder if each kingdom at the time, Mercia, Wessex, Northumbria, etc., would have had their own traditions. We kind of think of England at that time as just being England, although it was different kingdoms. So yeah, it might have been interesting to teach a bit more about the different cultures within the modern country of England. Or like you say, pick one NPC per event and have them get more involved, so we learn more about them. Make them feel like more part of the family or something.
Which means more lore, and you know I love some lore.
Absolutely.
I think I've heard about lore. I think for the next one, which is representing the Wild Hunt, we need Valka. We need more Valka content because, and this is a spoiler, but as it's already been confirmed that Eivor is Harvey, and seen as the Wild Hunt depicts Odin leading a ravenous charge of across the skies, as some of the descriptions I've read. Yeah, it could be interesting to see her go back to the hut, and you can get tokens by doing actual story missions of leading a wild hunt with Odin. That
I
would
have
be
this
fun.
I have this hilarious image now of Abel going out and doing something, and then it being retold a la the Wild Hunt, and then Valka coming back and just like whacking her over the head with a stick, like, what the hell were you doing?
Oh, that would be hilarious.
What
That
was
would be
that?
brilliant.
No more shroom tea for you.
Just hit her over the head. Bullshit. Oh, man.
So, what I was going to say, I've totally lost. My brain's just died. It's Halloween.
I'll tell you what then. So, as you asked me, and I plumped to talk about gameplay there by dodging the harder question of story. Apart from being the bad guys in The Witcher 3, what is the Wild Hunt? I'm assuming, well, from what you've said, it's part of the Norse mythology.
Yeah, so it's in several different mythologies, as is one with like European myth. But the kind of thing is the same as like a group of hunters in wild pursuit, a la the Wild Hunt. Um, quite a lot of them show like legendary figures and stuff, so you can have Odin, but sometimes it's Valkyries or things like that. But what is it? One of the Grimm brothers, I think.
I believe so. It
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
I
One
was
of the
reading about
Grimm's
him.
brothers wrote it down, which is why it's in like more of a modern sort of theory, and why we hear it in more of a Germanic sort of like West, not Western, East, Middle European kind of sense, a la the Wild Hunt, which is based on Polish mythology, where it's
Ah,
kind of
okay.
more a little bit antagonistic. Um, but quite a lot of them, particularly in, I don't know, I vaguely glossed over the Welsh version of it, and it was more like the Headless Horseman from Sleepy Hollow. Or the
Yeah, we
version
need
I
Headless
read
Horseman.
That would be
very
great.
was very much like the Sleepy Hollow version. So who's to say that Connor didn't already see the Wild Hunt? And it's a thing that happens every so often to certain assassins. Or it travels. And they've all seen it, but in different incarnations based on their own beliefs and using their logic to fill in the gaps of things they don't understand.
That's given me an insane brainwave. But I'm going to pass to James first, who I think has something to say.
I did click the button to raise my hand. However, I may have clicked that button accidentally. So, yeah, right back to you, Declan.
Professionalism at its best.
Absolutely. We'll edit all that out, don't worry.
So, quickly, as Louise did said, it was Jacob Grimm in his Douchuous mythologies, which was like a a comparative of mythologies. Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
I
it.
can read. I can read, not very well, but so what Louise touched about, like in Visions of the Headless Horseman, we know that a certain group of individuals who have a high concentration of Isu DNA unlock ego vision, which is like a sixth sense. I know that arguably Templars can unlock this too, but that's a different episode. What if that's what's ingrained inside that sixth sense? You know, like a locked sense of foreboding. This sense, you know how like there's mythologies in England of a black dog. You see the black dog, and
Oh, the Grimm, yeah.
that's yeah. You see the grim, you know, death's coming. So what if that headless horseman is just how our human brain interprets a foreboding, you know. Some people see the Grim, which is the black dog, some may see like the headless horseman, some may see the wild hunt, and it's just a sign that something's coming, something big. but our human brains can't comprehend what it is because of how the Isu designed us. Would that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone, all humans have a tiny, tiny amount of precursor DNA, don't they? It's just that a few lucky people
Have
have
a
more.
lot.
Yeah,
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 it's like 1,000th%, and then
yeah.
some sages can be like 3 to 4%. So like
Right,
tens
as
of
much as that.
thousands. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I wonder if they, if within the in universe, whether that's the sort of explanation for, you know, where you get the hair stand up on the back of your neck. That's your sixth sense, your eagle vision kicking in, even with your 1,000th% of your DNA.
Oh.
Sorry, that was just one of those random thoughts.
Sort of like
Yeah,
the battle reflexes in Percy Jackson being ADHD. It's like there's something that is still there, but is kind of classified a bit differently.
I'm going to say yes because I don't know those books.
I'm
Yeah.
going to agree with Louise. Like, I know the books, I know what you're on about. I love the books. Go, James. You recommended Unity, I'm recommending the Percy Jackson books.
All right, I've got like 4 books on my list to read, and I'm sorry. And as one of them, I have to read for Louise. This is for proper research, at least one, and I'm so far behind. So thank you, Declan. It's on the list. I promise. I'll see you in 2024. We'll do a Percy
There's a
Jackson
musical
episode.
if
There's
you
a
want a
musical.
yeah, there's a musical of the first book if you want
Oh my
like a
god.
2-hour crash course in it.
Oh, sounds perfect. That'll do me. I like a musical. We'll go with that.
Don't watch the films. If you want
Oh,
something
really?
scary, watch the films. They're
Scary, as
so
in they're
bad.
terrible. Oh, right,
They're
right.
so bad.
Okay.
I think, and
Okay.
it's off topic, but I think one of the pivotal moments of the book doesn't happen till the second film, even though it was in the first book. You know, that's not right. But anyways, the reason why I was agreeing is it is lore in the universe that humans were built in Isu's image. You know, we're like, how do I word it? Like dumbed down versions of Isu. Would that be right
That's
to
how I
say?
would. That's how I would say
Yeah,
it.
like a
Yeah.
simplistic version.
Yeah. So
Which is something that comes up in mythology a lot. Like, the gods create man. Or they just walk out of a giant's armpit, like they do in Viking myth. Which is a
oh,
thing.
or if you read Greek myth, it's even stranger how
No,
things.
don't read Greek myth.
No,
This is a
no,
Halloween episode. We don't
no,
want to
we're
give
not
our
talking about Aphrodite.
no,
We're
no,
not talking about
no.
Aphrodite.
That's
No Greek
that would get
myths.
our subscribers unsubscribing immediately in
This is
terror.
this is a PG-13.
Absolutely. Jeez. I'm not explaining. Go and Google it, everyone. Go and look on Wikipedia for Zeus and all the rest of it. That's
But
yeah.
the reason why I'm bringing it up, it could make a lot of sense that, you know, everything that happens spookily and, you know, feel like the old saying, somebody walking over your grave, chill down your spine, you know, ghosts. And I'm not going to use the term Isu done it because I really don't like it, but it could all be linked down to all these senses we've got taken off us. You know, they do lock a lot of our senses, and eagle vision is just us unlocking them senses. You know, how different people perceive the eagle vision is unique. Arno saw the memories of people, which I don't understand how that works. My brain's not switched on to understand that.
But that works. I do have a law compliant explanation for that, which I can very briefly give. That works because Arno is freaking cool.
Amen.
Yeah, we'll go
Amen.
with that. That's just because Arno's cool.
Exactly. Anyway, moving on.
It is final. It is law. Let's go.
Yep. Yep.
So, question for you all then: would you be interested then in this, because we now have our Lord and Saviour Basim in charge of the Animus?
Sorry, that's great. Lord and yeah, carry on.
Would it be cool if he hacks the Animus to have I forgot the name of them, Animus Anomalies again, but they tell the original Wild Hunt, which is actually a battle that the Isu had during the 10-year civil war between the humans, and we get to see that played out by doing these Animus things, and that tells the very first story of a Wild Hunt.
I like that. I could go with that.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it happening, particularly because we know that Basim or Loki, or whatever the Isu is called that's in his head, kind of finds the technology that we have very simplistic. So it would be theoretically easy for him to do or pick up anything. But I don't know. To be honest, I don't know how many people enjoyed the Animus anomalies or completing them. So to bring them back would have to, one, be a heck of a lot of coding, because they all have to be unique. You can't just have the same puzzles again. And how would you make them a little more zazzy, as it were? Would you do it with a time limit? Would you have it so you're being chased by the Wild Hunt? Or like the memory of? Or you could only do so many attempts, or
Revelations first-person view?
Can we do a quick straw poll of the three of us? I'll say, first of all, I really enjoyed the Animus anomalies. I thought they were kind of peak Assassin's Creed, that mixture of the Animus and parkour puzzles and revealing a little hidden truth video at the end. But what did you both think? Declan?
I'm going to say Dark Souls was easier to play than half of them Animus fragments.
Really?
Really?
I don't know if it's my reaction times, but I remember one of them, and I literally got my stop clock out and everything. And I realised that because of the pulsating ones, to get up a wall took about 4 seconds, but the pulse seemed to dissipate every 3.5 seconds. That's what it felt like. So it felt like you had a fraction of a second to jump, and Layla would never bother moving half time. It felt like the controls from the old games, that way you try and tell it to jump and it won't bother jumping, and you press it for ages and it throws itself off backwards. That's what I ran into a lot, and I was just like, got so stressed out that it took me months to complete them because it just made me go grey. But I want them back. Just maybe a bit better reaction times for my old man brain.
Old man brain. You're a kid. I'm not saying I didn't die or desync a lot. I did, but I did enjoy them. What about you, Louise?
Well, I definitely found them easier than I did the drinking challenges.
Ooh,
I was terrible at drinking challenges, which
I hate them.
I will leave out. But no, it's like, because I love puzzles. Like when I'm that nerd that at university didn't go partying. I went to quiz club on a Friday night, and still do.
Sounds good to me.
It's like I'm very Amy Santiago with it. If you watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, it's like I'm that person who will openly like go to the puzzles because they're fun, or try to decode it first. But I really enjoyed them. I did them all as Layla. Like I did it all before the end of the game, so
did you?
I had to watch a video to see how the language was different. Because obviously, if you do it as Layla, you get Rebecca and sometimes Sean. I can't remember. It's been a while. Like talking to her as she's doing it versus Loki Basim doing it on his own.
It was strange. The first I did about 80% of them before I went back to Norway, and Basim emerged in the modern day. And yeah, the first time he does, when he says something like, one of my Animus puzzles, or one of my, what does he say? Is it Animus puzzles he says?
I think it's
I can't remember.
Memories, but I can't remember.
Yeah, when he says it, it's like, this is cool.
It's like, I can't believe this is still here. Excellent.
So
but no, that was...
Sorry, go on, Louise.
Because it felt like that little bit of joy that I got from playing the earlier games, which I think was the point. But like, it's the first time I played it at the same time as people experiencing it. Because I came to the franchise Unity Syndicate year.
Right.
Like just after Syndicate had been unveiled at E3, played Unity that summer. So I hadn't done the Ezio stuff and all like the code breaking with Clay when it happened, when it was full, like nobody knew what was going on. So to be able to do it, I felt like full mission control, like Bishop. Like, I want to try and figure this out, and then I did, and I loved it. I would adore more of it, but it's just this idea of trying not to make it too samey. Like,
Mm.
they're fun, but after a while, you've got to have a point where, okay, the difficulty spikes, and the fun has to also go up a little bit to keep people invested. Because these
That's
are
true.
like 80-plus-hour games now. They are hacking tomes of
Mm.
knowledge and lore at every single turn. And you want people to spend as much time in your game as possible, while also treating your staff as well as possible,
Indeed.
in theory. Sadly, not always in execution, but that's what you aim for. So, there's. It's just keeping everyone happy and also having a really cool game, because it's that like burnout effect that we saw before the break between Syndicate and Unity. Syndicate and Origins. That idea of you can't have something the same over and over and over again before everyone's going to get grumpy, even in the same game. Like, just have a bit of fun with it. Make it go spooky. Let it, have effects on the world, if you want.
Yeah.
Because we still don't know what the cursed objects are. There's something there that
Ooh,
you could
yeah.
True.
easily do for a Halloween event.
True. I'll tell you what then. Let's talk about that. I'll just say one very final point on the animus anomaly. So we're 2 yes and 1 maybe. I do remember reading. I think it was in an interview with Darby McDevitt. He said that originally those puzzles were planned for Origins, but they were cut, I guess, because of time or budget or whatever. So they'd always had it on their mind to bring it back when they worked on the next game, and I thought that little tidbit was interesting. The cursed symbols, is it mushrooms in the air? Is it well, it can't be the animus, can it? Sort of presenting these strange, spooky effects.
I've heard a theory of the sisterhood about it, but I don't know how much lore comes from it, if that makes sense.
What have they said? There could be. Let's have a listen.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head because I first asked about it, but apparently there's lots of letters hidden around the cursed objects about local people putting up these talismans and all that, and we're not witnessing an actual cursed effect. It's like the whole world isn't really black and bleak. It's Avor's mental interpretation of the world. So she sees this cursed object, and she mentally, because of her beliefs and the way she's been brought up, she sees the world as bleak and cursed, and she needs to fix it. But in actual fact, there's no. If a British Celt person walks past, they just see a really creepy looking sign like, "Yikes, let's take it down. That's not right." But to an Horseman, they're like, "Okay, this is a cursed area. I have to stay away."
Well, my theory was that it's decaying Isu things, or like little shards of things that have got, like the Yggdrasil machine at the end, which is going to be a spoiler alert, but fuck it, we spoiled so much. Basically, that amount of radiation coming off, while it might not be radiation affecting like Eivor or the Celts and the Saxons and everyone in that area, it's giving off some sort of negative effect, or directly affecting Eivor more because they're a sage.
Yes, I love that idea of it being a
Which
little
brings back
shard of something.
yeah. Which
Because
brings back
when you break it, when you shoot the arrow to break it, there's
everything's
always
fine.
I know you're breaking a skull or a little whatever, but
Mm.
there's that little tinkling sound. It could almost be a little shard of glass or crystal or an Isu ball or something that we are, destroying. I love that.
And it seems like you were saying, there seems to be nothing affecting it or no one else seeing it. But that doesn't mean it's not having an effect that they can't register. It's just that the sages and people with higher Isu DNA are more inclined to register it or be more aware of trying to get rid of it because it's hampering them. Maybe why it is shown through the animus, because it detects things like this.
Yeah. So your regular human it feels a certain amount of draw to these objects, so they build a shrine or a
or
I don't know what
leaves
you'd
it
call
alone, like the one in the swamp in Ireland. Like, it's like those things in real life where you get the bad mojo for like an alleyway in the dark, so you walk away from it. Maybe it's that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to have a quest line where they're kind of puzzles as well, aren't they? Because some of them do require parkour and exploration to
Yeah,
get the right angle and find the right way in to
or there's
destroy the
traps
object.
and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yes, yeah. I must admit, I found those fun, and as the vision narrows and the screen darkens, it's whoever designed those visual effects. I just think they did a really nice job of making it feel properly spooky. Go on, Declan. You wanted to say something?
I may have just had a really massive brainwave thanks to
stealth
Louise.
as well.
James, I think you're rubbing off on me.
Go on.
So, has any of you heard of the term ley lines?
Yes.
Yes.
So, ley lines, if anyone's not unaware, listen to the show. Ley lines is a mythological idea that running through this world, every country, every town has a ley line, a magical source of energy, and if it intersects at like a crossroad, there's a high presence of mythological energy. You know, some say at a crossroad you can summon a demon because the ley line's crossing. Don't try it. I've seen too many TV shows saying it goes wrong. It's a tangent. What if the cursed objects are related to ley lines? You know, there's ley lines all over Ireland. There's ley lines all over England. And as you said with Isu sages having high sense DNA, that this leakage of ley lines, which I'm going to say meta-wise, could be older than the Isu themselves. So it could be an untapped power source linked to the Earth older than the Isu that has always affected the Isu in some way, and they've always tried to tap into it. And maybe that these cursed spots are actually part of the leyline network and something that's triggering Eivor's reaction through the sage.
I'll go with that. I mean, yeah, they're supposed to sort of intersect, aren't they, at certain what we would call monuments, I suppose, nowadays, like Stonehenge and all the rest of it. So yeah, why not? You could connect a lot of things this way.
Yeah, and just because there's no
sorry, Louise, go on.
And just because there's no monument there now doesn't mean there wasn't a monument there in the Isu time before the Toba catastrophe. So, like, Stonehenge could have been so much grander than just a couple of plinths that it makes sense to be a ley line point and thus a cursed object nearby.
Can I take a tangent? So, actually, I'm going to do it anyway, even if Declan says no. Sorry, Declan, but I'm not muted and you are. So, what the hell? Stonehenge and the other places we visit as, oh my God, what was the name of the Irish monk who leaves his notes?
Brendan
of Clonfort?
Yeah,
I'm not sure how you pronounce
Clonfort.
Clonfort, right. That was all, I mean, he was a sage, wasn't he? That was the whole point of that storyline. And he travelled to the Americas, I guess, because he felt drawn to the vault in northeastern America. But I was kind of hoping there'd be a little more about places like Stonehenge. I mean, maybe it was just built by humans because why not? But I don't know. Maybe I was just hoping for something a little more connected to the lore and the mythology. But I suppose we should be careful that not everything needs an Isu explanation or an Isu connection. What did you think, Louise, about those various historical places we visited or explored with Brendan?
See, I'm kind of the same thing. I'm like, yeah, I want to know, but at the same time, I quite enjoy the ambiguity. Like you were saying, it doesn't have to be Isu related.
Yeah.
Even if it's not just like picking up on the history. So I'm just sad that like the Arthurian legend nerd in me from when I was a child is like, I'm still sad Tintagel wasn't there because before it came out, that was where I thought Excalibur was going to be.
Same. Or Glastonbury Tor, somewhere like that would have a significant spot on the map.
Yeah, because that is.
And I don't know if it's even a mound there. Yeah.
There's like a tower on the top of Glastonbury Tor. I've climbed up it a couple of times. But it's that one of those. Glastonbury Tor is a point where they say that ley lines can intercept. and it's from the tower, it would be a perfect point for one of those cursed objects to be there. Or like, not Sourhole Mill, that's completely different. There's somewhere in Salisbury or somewhere near Stonehenge which is exactly the same.
Are you thinking of Avebury Ring?
Not Avebury, it's... Oh god, I'm gonna have to Google this.
Well, I
But
tell
it's
you,
really
while
annoying because
Louise
I've
Googles,
done...
me and Declan will do a bit of chatting.
Yeah.
Because there's you've got Stonehenge, you've got Avebury Ring a few miles away. Avebury Ring is also stunning. If anyone's ever visiting that area and you're a tourist going to Stonehenge, just explore a few. We've turned into a travel show, by the way. Just explore a few miles further and go and explore Avebury Ring as well, because it's also equally just incredible. And isn't there's an avenue? What's it called? Is it West Kennet Way? Am I remembering totally the wrong stuff that connects the two places? That whole landscape is just filled with ancient monuments, which absolutely do not have any connection to Halloween, do not have any connection to the Isu. I don't need to, but the whole area is just full of human history. It's stunning. Go on, Declan.
On about the stone circles, I have to add, where I live in Cumbria, we have Castlerig Stone Circle, Gencrodal Stone Circle, Gravecroft Stone Circle, and a Swinside Stone Circle. And I am thinking lore-wise, so let me just tie in this tangent, that it could be a really cool way of... It's not like saying everything's Isu related, but what if like humans built it because of like a prenatal sense that they've got to build these sites on their lives, but they never know why. So there's no reason to answer them. They just do it, and they don't know why they're doing it. Keeps a very huge mystery around it still, if that makes sense.
I've remembered what that settlement was, by the way.
Go on.
I'm very embarrassed because I did my archaeology fieldwork training here. I couldn't remember its name. Old Sarum.
Oh, the really straight site. Oh, that's an incredible site,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It's so uphill. It's so uphill.
I mean, let me show my ignorance now. If you're listening to this, just go and quickly look at Old Sarum. Just to Google images. It's a stunning place. I'm assuming it was man-made, Louise, or was it carved out of an original hill that was more natural in shape? Because it's just bizarre.
It's prehistoric, so it's at least 5,000 years old from the earliest settlements. So, and like, it had a Bishop of Salisbury staying there all the way up to like, or it had some sort of importance in parliamentary representation up to like the Victorian era.
Gotcha.
Like the early Victorian era. So it's like, it's got 4,000 and a bit years of history. But why that hill?
Yeah.
So if we were to tie this back to our Halloween, I love going off tangents, because really I think these tangents just show how diverse this Halloween can get in Assassin's Creed lore. It doesn't have to be remake skeletons, remake vampires, you could spookify lore and cursed objects by giving them a very small human / Isu twist to it. Why do we humans naturally believe in ghosts, spirits? Put it on like Isu trying to access the Grey, or the very first of Sage device, stuff like that. So I'm excited, but Louise, what were you going to say?
Okay, so we're going for the trifecta of brainwaves tonight, everybody.
Woo!
This is my
Celebrate
brainwave.
brainwaves.
It's not... I don't know what the lore implications of this. I just have one plot hole. Cassandra. She is around for 2,500 years.
Yes.
I would love to see like a Halloween sort of event where she turns up, because it's like, it's been at least 1,500 years at this point. You're going to have some fun. I want her to just cause just a little bit of chaos. And for, like, maybe we talk to her, maybe we see her in person, maybe it's just, like, an implication of this, this woman who looks like Ranvi is causing a mess. I'm just... Abel has to go figure it out. Ta-da. Cassandra's still alive and causing mayhem. Just sort of have a little bit of fun. Use your lore so you don't get like random threads. Tie them together. Make them live again.
I would love to see a little return of Cassandra. Personally, I think she's
Fun
great.
theory. It's like the idea that brought that about was, oh god, one of my friends from another AC server had the hilarious idea of Cassandra is Spring-Heeled Jack from Syndicate, just messing with people across London.
So you're telling me she's gotten bored? She's just having a laugh.
Yeah, it's Halloween. Might as well do something.
I'm starting to like Cassandra more because if I was, destined to meet my end in 1,000,000 years or 1,000 years, I am not going to sit around doing nothing. After I've built the biggest library, I am pulling pranks on the human race. I am using my Isu device and I am going to confuse the hell out of everybody because I can, I will. And
hell yeah. It's like one of the things I wrote for Codextober was on Cassandra. I think I did the historical prompt for her. And I love this idea of she sneaks onto archaeological excavations and drops random things to throw people off. Which, as an archaeologist, is the most infuriating thing.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But as a nerd, I love it.
So now, just let us know when you manage to fit that into an academic paper, Louise. We want to know, okay?
No promise.
Peer reviewed, of course. So the last question I've got for the Halloween, in case James has got anything, because I just really want to talk Halloween. I love Halloween. It's like my Christmas.
Yeah, we've been off topic for about 20 minutes, haven't we? Sorry about that, Declan. Let's talk about the Wild Hunt in Halloween.
Well, so the final question I have about Halloween is you can pick any town in Valhalla, Jorvik, London, anything. What town would you think would be cool for the DLC Descendos to go trick-or-treating? With the same Mary Lou outfit or even spookier? What town do you think we should go trick-or-treating on? Because that's traditions for Samhain, and it would be hilarious if we could do it in-game again.
Ooh.
So we visit Gloucester is the modern name of the city, but I think it's Gloucester, isn't it, in Valhalla? I'm guessing they based those names on what was recorded in the Doomsday Book. I've never actually thought about it before, but anyway, that's not really what you're asking. So, what town? There are a lot of decent-sized towns.
I can go first.
I'm going to give one silly answer, and then Declan, you go ahead. I want to do a little bit of trick or treating in Crawley, only because I want there to be a little tiny reference to our favourite twins.
Yeah.
Just for silliness, just not, it doesn't have to be. And of course, it's totally stupid because there's 1,200 years or 1,100 years between the events of Eivor's time and the events of the Fryer twins. But I just want there to be a little reference, a little pocket watch or something, buried in a rock that's Evie's pocket watch or something like that. But that's my silly answer. Go on, Declan and Louise.
So this is another silly answer, but I think it would fit into Valhalla. Dressing up as a wolf to go trick or treating in London. And then it's just a really huge Easter egg.
An American Werewolf in London.
Yes!
Oh, brilliant.
Louise has my werewolf. But it'd be so hilarious, just knock on like taverns and then people answer. There's just Avor's like standing there, doesn't know what to do, and there's no dialogue options, and they just scare him for money at you. And that's just the event. Knock, knock, change. Knock, knock, change. Perfect. I would literally farm that event for fun. That's like the best way to earn tokens. I don't care what the cosmetic is. I'm knocking on doors.
Would it increase your notoriety?
That'd be even better. Just running away from the guards because you don't have your weapons because you have
a little underground chase scene a la American Werewolf in London.
Yes, perfect. Imagine just darting through the streets. All the guards chasing you. You can fight them barefisted, which is really cool. And that'd just be making for epic photo mode. Just Ava dressed as a wolf punching some guard because she's going trick or treating. That's Halloween.
I love that.
That needs to happen.
Can we just have Stowe and Erke also dressed up in costume?
Yes, the boys.
Because they are, yes, exactly, very popular characters. So we need to see more of them, that's for sure.
Yes, we do. Well, my answer is not as funny as the other two, because my first answer was also going to be like London Crawley, but then I'm notorious for writing like angsty and like bringing the pain, and we haven't really touched on ghosts since we mentioned it at first. So I'm like, you could go trick or treating in Tamworth because Chalbert's buried there.
Oh, Louise, how could you? Oh, poor Chalbert. He was a sweet kid.
He's such a good boy.
Yeah.
But like this whole idea of like giving gifts to the dead, like certain South American countries do on like the Day of the Dead, like paying homage and stuff, like giving him not an offering, but like going to pay respects as you can do in the game, but sort of getting that idea of there's someone else being there and turning around and it's Chilbert. Just I made myself sad, but
I don't know if my heart's ready for this, you know.
I think that would work really well for the event. I think my heart would break, but it would, tie in with how the lore works in the event. But I think I definitely would be like, no, I'm too tired for this. Don't want my heart to break. I'm leaving it.
Sorry, just to be serious for a minute. So it's during the Shiropashira storyline, isn't it, where he's killed by Ivar?
Yeah, Ivar.
Is he buried in Tamworth,
Tamworth
Fortress, or is he buried at Wenlockens further out into? I can't remember. I'm sorry, it's been so long since I've played that.
I always thought he was buried at Tamworth.
Okay, no, I'm not saying no. I'm not disagreeing. I just remembered it was in that arc.
Yeah.
And Tamworth's in Leicestershire, isn't it? And maybe they bring him back. I don't remember.
One of the Mercia lot, because it's the capital of Mercia.
Ah, okay. Yeah. God, you could go. I mean, if you wanted to really make, we could make people really sad, but you could visit Soma's. Actually, they're all in don't they have memorials in Ravensthorpe? Because Dag's got a memorial in Ravensthorpe,
there's
hasn't
that
he?
little grave off to the side.
Yeah. Is Soma there, I wonder?
Oh, I don't
remember.
know. Because there's something you can do, I think, after you have the Holmes gang with Dag, is that you can go up to the grave and pay respects and talk.
Yes, I remember doing that. Yeah.
Which would be quite a nice thing to do, and then maybe have that like a ghostly apparition. Maybe if Dag's like insert rude gesture here, but some of the others are like very touched or just smiling, and it'd be quite a nice, not spooky, but more of like the ethereal, ghostly thing that we associate with Halloween.
Yeah.
I'm just currently sat here wondering, like, Louise has got me thinking of this now, James, and you've got me as well. Just, how did some of these, because I've got a book at the moment on A to Z of British ghosts, my Halloween reading. How did these ghost stories start? It was just Cassandra. She was just chilling one day in a church, and people came in, she just legged it because she didn't want to get caught, and it's like, oh, there's a ghost in that church. No, she's just skulking around, minding her own business. You scared her off. What are you doing? But now, forever in her heart, she's now the ghost of Church A in Tamworth or something. So, I think that's all we've got time for. I don't know if James has got any ideas or questions.
I think the only thing I'll say is we're recording this on the 27th of October, so Halloween is in 4 days, and my costume still hasn't arrived. So I may have to go for my fallback costume and just dress up as Sean Hastings, which, depending on your opinion of history teachers, could be absolutely terrifying. Yeah. Otherwise, my costume, which as I say is still not here, is going to be one of the Red Guards from Squid Game. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah. And just to fill in the extra details, one of my daughters is dressing up as one of the green contestants from Squid Game. So that will be good fun.
That's great.
I don't have a costume for this year. I'm scary enough.
Fair enough.
The pivotal element of my outfit hasn't arrived, so I'm also falling back on one. So I was going to go as Theroin Demericor from the Ace of Unity mission, but I can't make hats, so I had to get the hat delivered, and it hasn't arrived. So I'm falling back with a closet wardrobe cosplay of Evie Fry, because I haven't finished her coat either. But I have a like vintage old. I call it my pirate coat because the first time I wore it as Corazon from this D&D campaign, who's a pirate. But it looks very much like a simpler version of Evie's coat from the front. Just having like, I've got everything else apart from her coat for Evie, so just gonna substitute that in. We're all done.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that. And you shared with me a pic the other day of your prop pistols that arrived
Yeah.
for Mericore. I cannot wait to see the finished costume, because
I know.
her design in Unity is just awesome, and that hat with the feathers is perfect. So yeah, looking forward to that.
I'm so bummed I can't wear it, because it's been a month or two in the making, and I'm just like, I just want to wear it, but
yeah,
alas, I'm not Mericore without the hat.
What about you, Declan? Any costuming or partying plans?
Not this year, no. My eldest doesn't seem to be a big fan of Halloween, so I think it's just a nice quiet night in. Really double standard. Even though I love Halloween, it scares the pants off me, so I feel more secure in the house.
I understand that. I do not watch horror films; they terrify me. So yeah.
I'm more of a horror comedy person. Like Shaun of the Dead or like What We Do in the Shadows are like my go-to Halloween films.
Well, that's a great call. I like the
Is
idea of
it
Shaun of the Dead.
the only Halloween film I would watch, and it's technically not Halloween, it's just a great film? Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Ooh,
I love
that's a
watching that
good
around
pick.
Halloween.
That's a very good pick.
Around Halloween time, it's just nice to have a pizza and watch that. Or it's a very less known one, but it's got a great soundtrack. Repo the Genetic Opera. It's actually quite a good film, but it's like quite dark. But I watch that at Halloween. I like my good musicals at Halloween. I have to get Grease out now, and I'm kind of rambling.
Or Hadestown.
Hadestown.
Mm-hmm.
What? I don't
I
even
think
heard of that.
that it's basically like it's a new musical that's out retelling Orpheus and Eurydice story from Greek mythology, but it's sort of in a like 1920s Great Depression-ish vibe. It speaks that sort of level of like slightly Halloweenish. Like with the Beetlejuice musicals, they scream Halloweeny musical even if they're not Halloween themed.
Just thought I've never seen Beetlejuice, but I need to watch it. I also need to watch This Is
Definitely.
Halloween.
Winona Ryder is great.
I think we're way off topic now.
I've just got one of those horrible thoughts, though. Like we watch some of films from the 80s and 90s with my children, and yeah, the humour does not translate to 2021. So I'm now wondering, if I go back and watch Beetlejuice, which was one of my favourites when I was a lot younger, would it have aged? Will it still be funny? I don't know. Anyway, that's just one of those
You
random
can cut
thoughts.
this tangent out. It's fine.
Yes. I have learned that Declan
Nah.
never cuts anything. So this is now committed to the record forever.
It's committed. I know, because we're going into the outro anyway. So the reason I keep tangents in, it's just kind of feels more natural just to go on little ramblings. This is my tea time TV show. I keep thinking I'm going to be on a TV show for some reason. But no, this is my tea time podcast where we just chill. And I forgot my cup of tea today. But so I think this is all we have time for tonight, sadly. Happy Halloween. I will say that, because when this episode airs, I know it's Hallows Eve, but with James' wonderful skills in editing, it will be out on Halloween Sunday. So happy Halloween is one thing I'll have to say. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we would love to hear your thoughts on Halloween for Valhalla or Assassin's Creed in general. I know I've done a few Halloween special last year, so I would advise to check that out as well on YouTube and Spotify. So if you've got any comments, please reach out to me at assassinscreedletstalk@gmail.com or james@jamestiddlyquid. You can also email us at assassinscreedletstalk@gmail.com, and we'll see you all next week.
See you all soon.
Bye.